Okay.
So, welcome everyone to episode 2 of Small Business Talk Australia, and welcome to my wonderful guests. And we've spent quite a few minutes trying to get on to blab and work out some issues, but we got there in the end. So, Stephen and Suzanne Brown from Eddie & Lawyers and Julie Sanderson from Jacaranda Consulting. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hi. Welcome. I don't think there's any need to do an introduction. We've done that last episode. So if you want to know more about us, watch the last episode, and that'll tell you about exactly how much Steve charges per hour. It's quite reasonable.
Thanks.
Hey, I'm here to help you. And I know you feel
In
that
fact,
love.
I don't think I mentioned that, but it is on our website, www.eddieandlawyers.com.
All right. So today's topic is going to be about websites. And I'd like to just start off with a stupid question. I think I'm going to make it my mission to start off each week with a stupid question. So I'm going to start with my stupid question now. So don't look at me like that, Julie.
Oh, that's so
I know where you live.
Yeah.
Well, I don't, but I can find out. Yeah, it's easy. So the stupid question of the day.
Okay.
When it comes to websites, have we got to a point now in business in general that every single business known to man, woman and child needs a website?
That depends on the business.
Well, yeah. I mean, the end result is always, who do you want to talk to? What is your target market? And if I was to say to you that every human being on the planet is currently using the web to search for their next purchase decision or their next service decision, in the Western world, you're probably pretty close to the mark. Not necessarily everywhere, and not every single demographic is going to be searching, but it's a fairly good chance that your potential market is using the internet to search for you.
Okay, so could you give me an example of a business or a demographic that would not require a website?
If I were in a health services industry that particularly service perhaps some older age demographics, then that might not be the best place for me to be. However, more often than not, the people making that purchase decision are not the people that I'm going to be servicing. So the people who are searching are probably using the internet. So there's very few that you could come across that would use it.
You'll find, though, that there'll be some people who don't want to grow their business any bigger than it is, and they don't have a website, and they're happy with their customers they've got, and they just get customers by referral, so they're not going to want to have a website.
So I assume
shoe repair business would maybe one where there'd be no need for a website, because it's very localized. Not too many people are going to be looking for a shoe repair business on the website. I wouldn't have thought.
You know, Stephen, that's probably a really good example of somebody in a retail industry, like, for instance, the Mr. Minute type shoe repairs. I'd say they probably aren't as likely to need a website, although specialist shoe repairs now, yes, I would think would really benefit from having a web presence, because there are so few of them to give their potential customers who may not even know that there is the kind of service that they have out there an opportunity to find them. A website would be good for them.
But let's take Mr. Minute as an example. Now, I actually know a couple of people that own Mr. Minute franchises. And do you think, whilst the individual little kiosk may not need a individual website because they're in a shopping mall, so I mean, you know, it's very much an impulse purchase. You come in, you get your shoes repaired, get your keys cut, get some engraving done, you know, and that's pretty much it. But the franchise itself would still need that website, that web space, that bit of way of communicating out to people, to franchisees.
The difference is, I think, James, that the business there is not the actual work of the shoe repairs. It's the franchise business that is using the website. So it's actually a different business that is being advertised, not the actual end use business.
Yeah, gotcha.
So you'd also find that, for instance, it might be an impulse in one way, but I would suspect that a lot of the things like shoe repairs, yes, you've got to think about it before you go. Having an overarching franchise website that has locations and times and perhaps prices and all the different types of services, that's going to benefit the individual franchisees and their, in effect, the long-term customers.
Okay, all right. So
can I change? Having said what I've said, though, because it is a dying industry in a lot of ways, that the standalone shoe repair business is very difficult to maintain because the costs of labour, especially in Australia, are so high that, and the amount of work that one place gets is often insufficient for it to survive. Hence why they seek to diversify with selling knickknacks and having keys cut and engraving. There may well be a market for having an online shoe repair business which collects the goods and sends them out. Now, it would only therefore be done for very important shoes or shoes that have a great deal of sentimental value, or a pair of shoes that someone just loves so much they're not going to give away. But there may well be a market segment that would be useful for that.
Do you think there would be, though?
I think that's actually a really great idea from the viewpoint of how many women are now, even those who are not necessarily able to afford some, they will go out and buy an $800 handbag or a $500 pair of shoes for special occasions. They may not actually be able to afford the original item, but they will save up or they will pay it off or somehow they'll get it. They're not going to let that $800 handbag be thrown away in 18 months just because buttons come off it or something.
The zip's broken.
Sorry?
The zip is broken.
Yeah, exactly. So that I think that we're moving it. We've got the throwaway part of our society, and we have the very small. It's a niche market, but it's really, really worthwhile. There's a very high end that we save for our special moments.
But is it too small of a niche? Is it really sustainable?
That's where the online world is. It was really created for that in a way that. If we only have 2 or 3 in the whole Sydney area that does something special, if they're online, they can do it, as Stephen said, by sending things, having things sent to them, repairing them, returning them, pickups, whatever. That's the only way they're going to survive. And that whole industry or trade will die out without that kind of continuation. And the web is just such a wonderful new technology that they can use to keep an old industry going.
Fair enough. I have to admit, I mean, I'm not a very materialistic person, and I can't get my head around the concept of someone forking out $800 for a bag.
Oh, it's common.
Really?
That's unfortunately cheap.
$3,000 one.
I wish people would only spend $800 for a bag.
Exactly. Suzanne, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to point fingers, but no, you had to, didn't you?
Yeah.
Look, I don't see it as a problem.
Hey, what about that person down there who has his bags custom made?
What are we going to do with him?
Fight. All right. Okay. So if we're looking at, sort of niche, and obviously we've picked up on the whole sort of like shoe repairs, Mr. Minute type thing. So let's go with the flow. What makes a good website? And Judy, this is, I guess, really probably more your area. what are the key components to a really good website? And I'll get onto the legal aspects later, just before you say anything. But what are those key components that really sort of make a website go, yes, please use my services?
Okay, I think that the first thing is that more than 60% of people are visual learners. So we really want to have it visually appealing, lots of photos, very, very little content essentially in the first few pages, so that the things that people are going to come and find you on, you want it to really draw them in with pictures that are emotionally connecting. The other thing is that I think a lot of businesses, especially larger businesses, I notice, they forget that it's really the story that people want. They want the story of the business, the story of the product. Why should we do, if you're standing in front of a counter and you're talking to somebody, you're getting the feel for that owner of a business or a supplier of a service, you're getting the feel for it. The only thing that you've got in the website is by being given the story. And I think that people forget that that's what we all want as human beings, some sort of way of making a connection. I think the other final thing is probably a third thing. It's hard to break it down into just three things. So you've got it visually, you've got the story, and I think being current and consistently updating it. That's probably the third most critical factor. It does many things, and I'll talk about a bit more later perhaps with it under search engine optimization, but essentially it makes your site more visible to the search engines if you're updating regularly, and it keeps your clients and your customers and your future people coming back to have a look if there's something interesting and exciting. If they come back every 6 months and nothing's changed, they're never going to come back again. Yeah,
it's fair enough. Now, dynamic speaking, yes, I don't know where that funny bus sound is coming from. I'm going to blame the iPad users.
No, it seems to be Julie that's got the buzzy noise.
Okay, we'll try. I've turned off a few things, so we'll see.
I can't hear anything, so.
Yeah, no. I can hear a buzzy sound, but it's. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. I won't hold it against you.
Tell me if you hear it again.
So, just a funny accent. Yeah, we've all got funny accents. Can't do a lot about that, I'm afraid. So, there we go. So, the thing is, when it comes to those websites, and sort of trying to make that connection, do people really care? Surely, if especially like an online shop, people see the products, they go in, do they really care about what the story is, who you are, why you do it? It's the fact that you've got something that they want and it's the right price, that's what I want. Or do you think it's a bit of a 50-50 split? Or
I think it's easy to sit on the fence, and I probably am doing that. However, it's a bit like I go into Coles because it's convenient and I just pick up my groceries, and quite frankly, 90% of the time I don't care. So they're the kinds of purchases that are less mindful than others. If Coles do something horrible, like if I find they're doing something to a supplier that I don't like, or if they were selling a product that I thought was that had something mean about it, I would choose not to go to Coles, and I would actually make a mindful decision to drive that 2 minutes further and go to Woolworths, for instance. In those less mindful and faster purchasing decisions, if there is something negative, it will tend to make me change my decision. However, if it's just an everyday thing, it won't. So where that comes to is a website will be there just to give you an existence, but if I do something wrong on that website, I've lost you. So If you look after me, you won't be lost.
Okay. I can't remember where I saw it or whether it was someone told me, but you've got to get to, if you go into a website like an online shop, you've got to get them in 3 clicks to actually purchase the product. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And when you look at a lot of websites, when you look at the data of where people drop out, of the purchase cycle, you know, when they've gone through, they've looked at something, if they've had to click a second time to maybe get a bit more information after the picture, and then they've put it in their basket and they've got to go through all these other clicks, you can watch where they drop out. And after about the third click, the chances of them dropping out are absolutely enormous. You're looking at 70 and 80% will drop out in that next click after the third one sometimes.
Wow.
Mm.
That's, yeah. And the funny thing is, actually, I was shopping for a case for this new iPhone that I got, which is like the size of a Death Star. and I have to admit, I was going through eBay and I was searching for cases, and literally just like 1, 2, 3, and it was probably about 3 clicks. I'm just like, nah. So yeah, I mean, the abandonment rate must be just huge.
Enormous.
Okay, so with websites in mind, obviously website designers have been around since the dawn of time. Template farms like templatemonster.com.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, now you've got a lot more people are a bit more savvy now when it comes to websites and creating their own websites. Do you think there is still a need for a good website designer, or do you think these template farms like templatemonster.com pretty much are just chipping away at that market share?
I feel, well, this is just my opinion, but I feel that they are fulfilling a niche that wasn't being serviced at all before. There is a huge need for particularly small business, sole traders, organisations and associations really appreciate the Template Monster type. Buy it, set it up, do it yourself.
Yeah.
There is a massive gap in the middle, though, where your business is going to be ongoing and you want it to grow. That most of the time, it's less easy to scale them up. The other thing is that when you want to make your website found by the search engines such as Google for the rest of your life, you want to create them in the first place so that they are beautifully optimized for those search engines. Now, most of the time, a basic purchase template is perfect, but knowing the ins and outs of the detail at the back end is really important to be able to add and grow your business. So whilst I think they fit a perfect niche, absolutely brilliant, I think that they've created a niche for themselves and it works well. But the true website designers that work with perhaps graphic designers to create a brand along with the website, they will always be required.
Right, okay. So there we go. Website designers, you are still in need to some degree. There we go. But just out of curiosity, has anyone here used a website template, like from Template Monster?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think they're pretty awesome, to be honest.
Fabulous.
I mean,
Yeah,
for
I
what?
like it because it's like buying a new pair of shoes. I can change my website whenever I like. I just go and get a new template, and I've got a new website, and it looks fabulous. And I've done it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So I sort of just want to shift slightly and move on to SEO. Now, for those people that are not familiar with SEO, Julie, just explain what SEO is in its basic terms.
Mm-hmm. Simply said, SEO, search engine optimization, is all about making a particular page on your website seen and visible by Google and then passed out to people who look for you. So you go to Google, you type into the little search box, I'm looking for health insurance. If I'm a health insurance company, I want my company to be the very first organic search result that pops up when somebody types that in. Now, that's a really broad term, so the chances of becoming the first one on that is really hard work. If I typed into the little Google box, I want to find where in Brisbane sells a blue-coloured alligator print pair of high heels. under $150 and I typed all of that in, it would be much simpler to find the one shop in the whole of Brisbane that would sell it like that, because it is such what's called a long tail key phrase. Mm-hmm. It means it has lots of detail in it. It's really easy to put that to become the top ranked result after I've clicked that. So optimizing your website means being found in Google, using Google by the people, or the other search engines, I should say, including Bing and Yahoo and all the others.
Do they count anymore?
I'm sorry? Do
they count anymore? Or the other search engines, do they count?
Yes, in the US, they're really, really huge. You know, I guess that Google only has about 64.5% of the search traffic in the US, and Bing and Yahoo and a couple of others do quite well out of it. In Australia, it's closer to 90% for Google.
Right, okay. That's pretty massive.
Mm.
If only they would pay their fair share of tax. Damn, did I say that out loud?
Yes,
oh, damn, sorry. But I've got no, that's allegedly. Can I just point that out?
Right.
Come my bomb. So over the years, do you think SEO's changed a lot?
Oh, massively. Absolutely.
How so?
I think that, first of all, and look, it's still true, most people didn't even know what SEO was, and probably still don't. The biggest thing was that in the past, there's what we call black hat SEO and white hat SEO. And you can just imagine, and I'm sure that Stephen will have some more stories about this, but the black hat SEO is ways to trick the Google algorithm to put your listing first when somebody searches for something. There were millions of ways of trying to get around it, because essentially Google have, and we don't know, but essentially between 200 and 400 different steps that its algorithm takes to decide who should be, or what website should appear as the first ranked or in the top half of the page of rankings for any particular search. So over the years, lots of people have tried to get their searches towards the top by doing all sorts of naughty things, and Google has tried to restrict those naughty things happening by penalising the people doing it. So in the past, there was lots of this black hat kind of trying to trick it, whereas now more operators of SEO are attempting to get their places in a reasonable way by using decent techniques that are really benefiting the customers instead of just benefiting the business.
Okay, now can you give me an example of a black hat sort of technique and how, I mean, and how sort of Google counters that? Because it must be an ongoing battle between the search engines and the SEO people, and it must be just this constant warfare between the two. So give me an example of a typical sort of black hat.
Probably one of the simplest methods of black hat in the past was to take one article written by somebody and copy and paste that article that had lots and lots of the keywords. So say, for instance, my blue crocodile print high heels.
So I
have a 500-word article all about blue crocodile high heels. And I will copy and paste that onto a half a dozen different pages throughout my site.
Yep.
I will change nothing. But blue crocodile high heels will appear 102 times in the 500-word article.
Right.
It helps no one. It's horrible to read. It really is off-putting to real customers. But a long time in the past, Google would have looked at it and said, oh, blue crocodile high heels, somebody's searching for that. 102 times it's mentioned in this article, so therefore that must be the very best website to send them to.
Right.
And poor old customer would have arrived at that site and gone, oh, there's nothing there for me. This is really horrible. So they would have gone on and tried to find something else. So the way that Google managed that was to say, basically don't stuff keywords into an article and don't just copy and paste articles throughout the web that are identical. And the way it did that was by, just doing duplication checks throughout millions and millions of sites.
So would it be a fair assumption then that keywords for Google aren't as highly regarded as, say, decent content? Is their algorithm now shifted away from keywords and key phrases to more content based, or
100%? But keywords are crucial to good content, and it's the same as giving a speech or writing an essay. The most important thing, what are you writing about, so that your customer or your reader knows what you're writing about. So, when you're taught to write an essay in high school, you're taught to state in the first paragraph, this is what we're about. Expose, if you want to think about it, or postulate throughout 2 or 3 paragraphs or sections of what you're all about. And then in the closing, you're going to say, this is what we told you about what we're talking all about. So what Google's looking for is the same kind of content where you inform and give good quality to your ultimate reader, so that you will have something about it will include a key phrase towards the beginning, throughout a few times where it's worthwhile in the middle, and then closing up with something about your keyword so that people can actually find it.
So all of that in that one sort of there, that one phrase, it sounds to me SEO costs a lot of money. I mean, would that be a fair assumption? To get a decent SEO, it's going to cost you a lot of money, or are there tricks that people that are small business owners can do themselves to help increase their ranking? What would be the sort of key things that you could mention there?
I think that you need to understand where to look for the rules as of today, because they consistently change. So something that, for instance, I know that Suzanne has gone through a mastery course in search engine optimization, as have I. And whilst I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in all parts of it, I have a good understanding of the growth of where the different search engines are looking for to get content to put for clients to look at. So the initial outlay comes from learning in the first place. And from then on, it's really a time factor. So you may choose to outsource it. You may choose to do it yourself. To do it, it's on a regular basis is the most important thing to do for your website, keeping it up to date regularly with content and obviously with detail if necessary. But keeping it up to date consistently can be as simple as having a person in your office write one article a week. Or it could be as detailed, if you want to, putting 2 or 3 things out every day. So it very much depends on how your business goes, the kind of clientele you want to look at it, how often you want them to look at it. So long as you know what you want, it can be a reasonable concept. There's lots of really fantastic outsourcing companies out there, but I still believe that you need to know a little bit of nitty-gritty before you start outsourcing.
Okay.
From a person who's done it myself, it is a time-based thing. So if you don't have the time to do it, you should outsource it. But if you do have the time to do it yourself, I'm using Yoast SEO, and that walks you through step by step exactly what you need to do. And you've got no idea how hard it is to write 300 words. When you just want to throw a photo and say, this is what we did, and then it says, but you really want to have 300 words. And I'm going, fine, I'll write 300 words. And then
do your told
through how many headlines should you have? Oh, you don't have your alt text right. You don't have the right words in it. It's a really good thing to be using, and it's free if you've got a WordPress website. And it makes it much easier for someone to do it themselves. And it's also probably a good idea to at least use that when you're going to get SEO, because at least you've got an idea of what they should and shouldn't be doing. Because a lot of unscrupulous operators out in the market.
Yeah, I mean, it must be hard for you guys as lawyers to get yourself, using SEO principles to get yourself ranked. I mean, are you cognizant of the fact that you need to make sure that you've got decent rankings on Google, Yahoo, Bing, whatever?
I wrote an article on promissory estoppel, and I optimized it from here to kingdom come. And we get so many hits on that article. The problem is I'm getting them from our freaking university students because they're all studying promissory estoppel.
Right.
So it's not quite what I had in mind, but let me tell you, it's my best page. And it's beautiful.
There we go. So how do you as lawyers treat SEO?
Like any other business.
I mean, do you get? I mean, do you notice that if you do a lot of SEO for your nice brand new spanky website, do you get a lot of traffic coming in, a lot of inquiries coming in from the website, or is it still through them alternative, like, you know, word of mouth, referrals?
Oh, we still get referrals and word of mouth, but if we put something up on the website that's relevant, we get, and it's well optimized, we get a lot of hits and we get phone calls on it. There's no doubt about that.
All right. So I'm sure everyone and their pet dog has had some sort of spam email from unscrupulous SEO companies saying, you know, we'll get you on page one of Google, blah, 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 blah. Now, if you are going to go and outsource your SEO, what would be the top tips, the things to go for, the things to avoid, and the things to run to the hills from?
Well, probably one of them is that there's a client that we have that doesn't take any money for SEO unless and until your word, their website, the client's website is at #1 ranking.
And that's organic search or through paid?
Organic. So that to me is quite useful because you're not paying anything until it is at page 1. When it does get to page 1, you then pay the fee over a 12-month period.
And that being said, if I can just add on to what Stephen said, if somebody just says to you, I won't charge you or I guarantee that you'll get to #1, you need to make sure that you ask for what keyword. Because in that example I used before, for health fund, for instance, or health insurance, to try and get to #1 for health insurance is going to be impossible just about, unless you've got a lot of time and a lot of money. And my blue crocodile high heels is great if that's the one that they're going to optimize for, so long as they say that and you know that the only category in your product line that's going to get optimized are the blue crocodile high heels, and you're happy with that, that's wonderful. But you need to ask them the question, for what set of keywords are you going to get me to whatever page?
Yeah, what this client does, they ask the client for 10 keywords. So the client provides the words that the client wants to have.
Okay. Now, this actually brings on to my next question. If you've got someone in SEO land says, right, give me 10 keywords, how do you know what are going to be 10 good keywords for your business?
Go to Google Analytics and search for them. And then you just throw your hands up in the air and hope for the best.
The other really good way of finding them is to ask your current clients, especially if you've got them through the internet. You say to them, what did you go searching for? What kinds of things did you look on Google to find us? Or had you searched in the past for other companies? What did you key in? And so existing clients are a huge source of great ideas.
Yeah.
But as Suzanne said, and this is one of the other things with if allegedly there was some tax implications from Google, the thing is that they give us so many free tools that if we had to pay for them, we couldn't afford to use them.
Yeah.
So the Google Analytics has a keyword tool that is amazingly easy to use and will continually give you ideas, if nothing else.
Okay, so actually, I mean, I've used the keyword planner tool a lot for my businesses, and I found that really, really good. But when you've got 3 sections, you've got like the very competitive keywords, then you've got sort of medium range, then you've got low should you be in that sort of frenzy of looking to optimize your website for the competitive keywords, or should you be smarter and start looking at those key phrases or those long-tailed keywords for your website, just to not, I guess, beat sort of Google's algorithm, but just to basically sort of go to give you a bit of a better start?
Well, it's a bit like you know how we always used to say about the low-hanging fruit. If I'm going to put in that I'm looking for blue crocodile high heels in Brisbane to buy for under $150, I'm damn close to wanting to actually buy them. If I just put in high heels in Brisbane, I could be just putting ideas for what I want to wear to my cousin's wedding in 2 years. So the good thing is if you've got a really specific long-tail keyword phrase, you are really on that low-hanging fruit. The chances are they're ready to make some sort of purchasing decision.
So Steve, do you have those sort of keywords then for your website?
We would normally have the words that we use in the articles. So the articles that we publish on our website become the key words. So contract, terms and conditions, restraint of trade, employment, they're sort of self-generating from a lawyer's perspective. But also the difficulty we have for lawyers is we do so many areas.
Yeah.
Now, if you're doing a sale of business has tax, employment, intellectual property, contracts, freight, retentions. So you have it all.
Yeah. Well, this is not really specific about SEO keywords analysis. This is really more about websites in general. Well, I guess really more to the point of what makes a good website, what's good for marketing your websites, and we're also going to get on shortly to, I guess, the legal aspects of websites as well. Now, I'll wrap up sort of like I guess the marketing side of today's blab with give me the 3 sort of top mistakes that you come across, Julie, when it comes to people and their websites. What are the 3 most common errors?
Number 1, not thinking of or giving your website is your 24-hour silent salesperson. So you need to give it that respect. It needs to be a regular part of your marketing and sales process, so that it can't just be put up there and hope that somebody looks at it. So it's a silent salesperson. Not telling the story, not giving real information about your product or your brand. It could be as simple as once a month putting up a story about perhaps where you import something from. It could be as simple as if I was IKEA, for instance, IKEA, they do little profiles on their designers. Probably not that thrilling, except if you're buying that particular product. Finally, not being consistent. It doesn't matter whether you choose to do something like put up a blog or update a page every week or every month or every day. It's more important to do it whatever you choose to do it, so that it's consistent. So you might do it every day, you might do it once a week, you might do it once a month. Just do it then, so that you and your customers and Google will all get to know that you are consistently updating.
Okay, so the big keyword from that basically is consistency. Okay, all right. So if we've sorted out the marketing side of things, and I'm dying to know Steve and Suzanne's thoughts on this, because I would feel fairly safe in the knowledge that a load of people with websites out there are probably so exposed legally that you could probably drive a train through it. So yeah, I'll start off with when someone as a small business owner has got their nice new spangly website, what are those key components that you should have on your website from a legal standpoint?
The first things you need, and this is where the templates are actually quite bad, because the templates are very good from the marketing perspective, but they don't have the back end from the legal. And what you should have on a website from a legal perspective to protect yourself are terms and conditions for use of the site. And those terms and conditions should deal with what happens with material that's uploaded, who owns it, warranties and representations that the people who are uploading the information own it, they have the right to upload it, that it is not defamatory or engaging in injurious falsehood. Because if you allow user-generated content to be on your site, then you have the liability that you take on the role in Australia as a publisher. So if the material that is uploaded is defamatory, you're publishing that defamatory material, and therefore you can be sued like a television station, a radio station, or any newspaper. You need to make sure that pictures that are on your site are given the appropriate moral rights attribution pursuant to the Copyright Act. You need to make sure that images that are on your site are that the person who uploads it is the owner of it, because otherwise it can be copyright infringement, same as a diagram. So you need to be careful. You also need to be careful of discrimination. There was Andrew Bolt recently was sued under the Anti-Discrimination Act for making racial slurs against Aboriginals. And he and the Herald and Weekly Times were prosecuted under that particular legislation. In Australia and New Zealand, we have false, misleading and deceptive conduct. And there was a case recently with the ACCC and Allergy Pathways, where the ACCC took action against Allergy Pathways for having misleading and deceptive statements on their website. Allergy Pathways decided to take it down because they were required to. 18 months later, there were customers who were making testimonials which included information which Allergy Pathways had previously said was misleading and deceptive, or agreed to it. The ACCC found out about it and then prosecuted Allergy Pathways for allowing this misleading and deceptive information to remain on their site, even though they never put it there. They simply allowed it to be put there through customers. So you have issues of reputational risk, breach of contract, prosecutions under the Australian consumer law, discrimination, defamation, and all of these can be managed to some degree through having appropriate terms and conditions of use of your website.
Okay, now I'm not sure if I'm going to articulate this particularly well, so bear with me. We own an Australian website. Okay, now obviously once a website is out in the big wide world, everyone from all corners of the planet can come along, and if you're an online store, they can order from your online store. If you're I guess like a news content sort of like website, and you've got a space there that people can put comments on, they can do so. But in terms of from a legal perspective, if you have someone from America that comes onto the website and make some claims a particular person, how does that stand in terms of legality for if you've got someone from another country making those sort of comments on your website? Is there some sort of, is it because your website is in Australia, therefore it's subject to Australian law? Or do you need to make sure that if you have these sort of sites that you are out and you're selling internationally, that you've got all your bases covered? The answer is a technical one. It's all about governing law of contracts, and the use of a website is governed by contracts. So if you have and Walt has asked a question about social websites. So if you're a business and you're connected to social media,
Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or something like this, you're as liable for what's on those sites if they're your site as you are on your own website. So when I talk about a website, I'm not making any differentiation between a social media site and your own. The liability spreads over all of them, and terms and conditions of use is required for all of them. There was a case where the Times in New York published an article about an Australian, and it was a guy by the name of Gutnick, and Gutnick found out about it, and it was defamatory, and Gutnick sued them here in Australia and was successful. So, and that website was a website based in America, regulated by American law, but because it was being used and accessible in Australia, it was nevertheless subject to Australian law for the purposes of defamation.
Right, okay. So, what we're basically saying, ladies and gents, it's a minefield. So, the thing is, when it comes to, again, a small business owner, what are the bare essentials that you need to have on your website just to make sure that you've got at least one cheek of your backside covered?
Terms and condition of use of site.
Right. Okay.
Also, know what the copyright of your images is, because every image will have a different copyright to it. And even if you find free images on sites that are in public domain, you need to check that they're available for commercial use and whether or not they need attributions.
Okay, so this is where the attribution comes in. So for commercial, non-commercial, whether you've got to give acknowledgement, all that sort of
that
stuff.
Depends on the copyright. Just because you give someone attribution on your website for an image doesn't mean that you've covered yourself. If that image is not available, the copyright doesn't allow you to use it freely. Just giving attribution doesn't help you. So you need to ask the person who owns the copyright of the image before you use it, or read their terms and conditions that they have. Don't just attribute them and think you're covered.
Okay, so what about if you had a image, but you changed the image enough that it wasn't the exact same image? I know you're shaking your head.
No, it doesn't matter, because you have used somebody else's work to create your own image. That doesn't help. You can change it, but it's not doing the job.
What you can do, though, is that copyright only protects the image or the image itself. So if you see an idea of a photograph, and you like the photograph, then if you take exactly the same photograph yourself, then that's covered by your copyright. So there's no infringement of you taking your own photograph. That's quite acceptable. If you see a sketch and you do your own efforts and you replicate the sketch, that's fine. If, however, it's a table, and it's a table of information, and you merely copy the information, then that can be a breach of copyright. So it's quite difficult. I've also seen other comments about Creative Commons and things like this from Walt. I think Walt said he's in the States. The US position is very different to that here in Australia. We don't have a fair use concept, so any license is a problem. And I've seen also from Derek about the Google policy team for disclaimers. Again, I don't know where Derek's from, but under Australian and New Zealand law, disclaimers can be useful, but if the disclaimer is not adequate, it still doesn't prevent material from being misleading and deceptive conduct. There's numerous cases under Australian law where there has been a disclaimer, but the courts have held that the size and extent of the disclaimer was not sufficient for it to disabuse the message that the ad was giving to the target audience. So you need to be very careful about that. And that happens all on the website.
Blimey, you scare me. Oh, it's just, I mean, when you think of like just websites, you think, okay, terms, conditions, privacy policy, yeah, that'd do. And you're so right. I mean, it's like you start putting images on there. Do you have the rights to those images? You know, are you making sure that you're not going to shoot yourself in the foot? I mean, what about like online stores? How does that work? I mean, if you're selling a product, then obviously you need to use a image. Especially, you know, if you're selling an image of a table from IKEA. So, but does the same rule still apply? I mean, does it only applicable for certain situations? Like if I'm selling something online and I use that image, am I still infringing copyright, or am I allowed to use that image if I'm selling the product?
Sorry, what image are you talking about? I'm not clear.
Well, let me say, I've got an online store, and I want to sell a table.
Yes.
Okay, so if the table's made by IKEA,
yes,
for instance, and I'm selling IKEA furniture.
Yes.
If I'm using if I'm using, you know, the same picture that IKEA's got, am I infringing their copyright, or am I allowed to use that image for the purpose of selling the product?
Well, that will depend upon the terms and conditions of use of IKEA's website.
For IKEA's images.
That's right.
Okay.
So without reading their terms and conditions,
crocodile high heel shoes.
Yeah.
Generally, the manufacturer or wholesaler will allow a retailer to use images of their goods. So if you're David Jones or you're Neiman Marcus and you're selling Sunbeam equipment, then if Sunbeam have on their website a photograph that you want to use in your magazine, it's highly unlikely that they'll ever challenge you on it because you're making them $1. However, if you were comparing Sunbeam to Braun and you took Braun's photograph and you were saying unkind things about Braun's material, then Braun may well say that you're infringing their copyright in that instance. And so what you'd be better off doing is simply take your own photograph. Because if you take your own photograph of the Braun material, you don't have a problem.
Right. Even though even though your picture that you've taken of their product.
Because it's the picture that's copyright, not the product.
Right. Okay. There we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got a website and you're selling stuff on there, make sure your bum's covered. I mean, it just astounds me there are so many landmines that you can step on. I mean, but seriously, I mean, like, do people really want to go and start suing everyone left, right, and centre because you've got their website? Okay, right, you're nodding, you like that now.
Well,
right.
But you see,
let's talk about getting images.
Yes.
Let's talk about getting images.
Are they really sort of like rampant in suing people if you use their image?
Oh, God,
I mean, how would they know?
Because they actually have people that are paid to look at this. We would issue
great job.
We would issue notices for ceasing and desist under misleading and deceptive probably 3 or 4 times a month. Because they're not after damages. They're after people ceasing and desisting in conduct that is not satisfactory. That also under misleading and deceptive conduct, you can get corrective advertisements. So you can get an order where the wrongdoer has to put an advertisement in saying, I have been a bad person and this is why. Then the person who's been injured can use that and keep on reproducing that corrective advertisement time and time again to, I think to use the technical term, slag them off. So it can be tactically worthwhile to take on a case, not just to get damages, because damages can be very difficult to prove in these circumstances, but to get the corrective order. Then use the corrective order to keep ramming it back in your competitor's face time and time again.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, let's take the example of, say, Getty Images. I mean, do they actively go and sue people, or do they just give a cease and desist notice, or how does it work?
It depends on the people. Normally, it would be cease and desist. Although, if you're the artist, there was a case in New York where a famous artist had their painting put on a newspaper, but the attribution of the painting was given to another artist. So he said that his copyright had been infringed because of that. He asked for corrective orders to be made. They were never made till the death's door just before the court case, and he was awarded $20 million from a US court.
Oh, hello. $20 million.
There's a not-for-profit in Victoria who has just who received a cease and desist from Getty Images, and they got an $800 fine from Getty Images, and then they didn't continue, they didn't pay it or something, and the fines just kept getting bigger and bigger. So Getty Images are out there looking all the time, and because they act for all the artists, and clearly they make a profit on it.
Well, I suppose the artists, that's what they do for a living. How would we feel if the only thing that we did for a living, everyone was just taking and using? So I guess it's unfortunate, but we have to have a look at it.
And it's not just Getty Images' own images. Getty Images act for most. Anybody can go to Getty Images and say somebody's ripping off my work, and Getty Images will go after that person for them. So they like
Getty Images was the company that had to pay the $20 million because they were the one who stuffed up.
They need to recoup their money.
Well, that's right, exactly.
That's fair enough. Well, see, on the Udemy courses that I have, there's been a spate where you've got people that are downloading them and sort of just changing the titles and putting them back on there. So Udemy themselves they're in an interesting situation because they've got all this content that technically isn't theirs because I assume it's my IP.
Well, it depends on the terms and conditions of the Udemy site. So you need to read that.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. Lawyers.
That's true. That's the answer to your question.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the interesting thing there is that it's hard from I guess Udemy's perspective and certainly my perspective. I mean, like once your course is out there, how the hell do you know who's not taken it and who's done what with it?
Well, that's the point. You can't protect the information in a course because the information is not able to be protected. You can only protect information if it's patentable, which a course isn't. The copyright is only in the way you express the information of the course. So if someone takes that information, it becomes ingrained in their being, and they regurgitate it in another manner, then they're quite entitled to do so. Otherwise, you'd only ever have one university in the world.
Yeah. Stephen, would you mind just answering that question that Walt's just put in, that he's put down there? I hope you can see that on your screen.
Which
it's the very last one.
What if there isn't any terms of service on the website?
If there's no terms of service, Walt, under Australian law, the person runs a real risk. You can do whatever you like with it. There's arguably an implied license of use. There's an implied license to leave whatever you've got and cause them great grief and consternation.
Well, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, if you have user-generated content, that's the whole point of having terms and conditions of use, is to regulate that. So if the user-generated content is offensive, you've got the right to take it off.
Oh, well,
that's fine. I don't own Blab. I don't mind.
Props, mate, and I would. That's just a classic comment right there. Blab has no terms of service. Oh, that's great. Hey, Blab, you Stephen. They've got a code of conduct.
Code of conduct.
So what's the difference, Stephen? What's the difference between terms of service and a code of conduct?
probably just the nomenclature of how things operate. So they're probably one and the same. That's how I would see it. Right.
Okay. Oh, geez. Well, it's not even formal voted on by the community. I mean, does that make any sense from a legal perspective, Steve?
Well, I suppose we're not really. See, we're not selling anything from this. We're just using. Obviously, if anyone takes what we leave on the site, they can take it away and hive it off. That's what's happening if you don't have any term and conditions of use on site.
So I guess there's also an element there of buyer beware, because you've got no idea what's going to happen with your content.
Yep. Unless that's exactly right. And if you want to control that, then you've got to put it behind closed websites.
Yeah.
We've got on our website, if people are listening to this and they email us at sbrown@etiennelaw.com. We've got a site where we've actually got a on what you can put on a website, how you look after it. And so people that are listening today can get access, but we'll need to give them the password. So you need to contact us because it's just not freely available.
So you've also got presentations on website terms and conditions as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Okay, all right, okay, cool. So if anyone's listening to this, you can by all means get in contact with Steve and Suzanne. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to send you a PowerPoint presentation. All right, okay, so we're going to wrap things up. Now, next week, I think if we'll move away from sort of websites and we'll go to the beast that is social media, because I hate social media. I can't stand it. I would really find I would go and eat my left arm rather than really spend a lot of time on social media. I hate it that much. But
you like it better than cold calling.
Yes, but I do. Well, seriously, Ebola is better than cold calling. I mean, come on, Jesus. There are so many things that I so do not like about social media. So next week, I'd love to know more about just how bad it could get for you from a legal perspective. Because I mean, there must be so many things. There must be a lawyer's dream of like, oh, I can go and sue you for that, or I've got clients that can go and sue you for doing some really stupid things on social media. So we'll talk. We'll have a nice long talk about how bad social media could be for you from a legal perspective. Julie, I'd love to know more about how we can go about marketing and branding ourselves via social media, especially how you can convince people like me on how to enjoy social media a bit more. And I'd also love to know actually on how you can recover from a bad social media experience, because you could destroy a brand in one tweet now. I mean, it's just scary on what people can do from a keyboard these days. So, and I guess the other thing as well is even bad social media. Is it good? Is it good? Is it? Can you turn it around? How would you turn it around? So
we can talk about Justine Sacco, can't we?
Yes, we've got so many good things to talk about next week.
Okay, in that case, then I'm guessing next week's session might be a bit of a long one. So, all right. And the other thing that I'd actually want to talk about, and I guess this would be more about the legal aspect of it, is that how you deal with the trolls, the old keyboard warriors, and is there any sort of legal recourse that can be had against those sort of people? So those are the things. Stephen's eyes like, maybe.
I'm not quite certain I understand the question.
Well,
that's all right. I'll explain it to you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm thinking like the trolls, the cyber bullies, the keyboard warriors, the people behind the key, behind the computer screen going, "Oh, Stephen, you're a bit of a twat."
I'm a lawyer. Everyone thinks I'm a bit of a twat. What could I do?
Mate, it could be worse. You could be like me. You could be a debt collector, mate. There's a lot more worse things than that, I can tell you. All right, so we will leave it there. So thank you, everyone who is watching this. Walt, thank you ever so much for your questions. They've been great. Thank you. And hopefully I will see you again, all you lovely people. And I'll see, hopefully, the people that are listening and watching us, hopefully we'll see you again next week. So we'll look forward to that. And until then, enjoy your week. See you then.